trust that is established in the real world, it's important, and so if we can apply that, in the digital space, this can be a foothold on reality.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Test, Optimize, and Scale. We have an AI expert, an authority in the space today, Chris Wright, CEO, founder of the AI Trust Council. That's correct. AI now has a trust council. They're creating tomorrow's trust today. I'm fascinated by the conversations Chris is participating in a daily basis at this point. Chris, thanks for taking the time to join the podcast and educate listeners on what you do.
Absolutely. Great to be on with you. Yeah, no, we got our hands full to say the least right now.
I bet if I were to count how many times I hear ChatGPT referenced on a daily basis, or some of the texts that get pitched to us, some of the different things we can use as marketers for video and for creative, it is really amazing. And I love how you talk about tomorrow. I personally consume a lot of content around AI and where things are going to be, where the intelligence levels are going to stand in 2030, 2037, 2050. So glad we get to dive into it.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, yeah, it's interesting, being in the space and actually getting to see the rapid development of it. There's a concept of Moore's law, which talks about there's a doubling of processing speed and also a miniaturization of microprocessors, that happens at a consistent rate. And I would say Moore's law is done when it comes to AI, because AI has transformed the game for sure.
Now, how did you get into the world of AI? Where did your path start, and what's shaped your career to now get into artificial intelligence?
Yeah, so for me, my background, really when I was in, after high school, I was in college, and I got an internship out Newport Beach, California, and with a company called Tech Coast. And I was in the early 99, 2000 timeframe. And it was interesting because it was a VC firm that was investing in this business incubator for, tech startups and stuff like that. So at that time, it was interesting because the internet was really just getting started. And so one of my roles was to review business plans. And so it was interesting because I was able to see all these, bright entrepreneurs that had different visions for, what they wanted the internet to look like, and, all that kind of stuff. And it was interesting because a lot of the concepts that we see today, were talked about back then, but just the technology, what wasn't really there. And so I had a unique perspective on kind of the foundation of Web 1.0, which is pretty interesting. And saw the .com bubble fall apart. Then I went on and I've served in the military. So I'm still in right now. I'm in the IRR, getting out. But I got to see, really where AI is going from the drone warfare perspective in the military. And so that's really what got me kind of motivated towards raising awareness in this space. I think a lot of people don't. There's a huge amount of benefits to AI systems, that kind of thing, but really it's the drone warfare that got me into it, and seeing the need for ethics in this space, and that's one of the things I'm doing right now is we're raising awareness of this technology from a battlefield perspective. My background's Army aviation, fly Apache helicopters, and been doing that for a long time. I was contracting in the Middle East for about 10 years, teaching foreign students how to fly the Longbow Apache. So spent a lot of time in simulators and given a lot of classes on warfare and that kind of thing. And what I'm seeing is that the drone warfare aspect of AI is transformational. And a lot of people don't know this, but like there's some the dynamics of humans being in charge of killing folks is over. I mean, it's getting decentralized down now to AI systems, and that's pretty freaky. So
crazy world. I
yeah,
look at the capabilities of my, public consumer DJI Mini Pro 2, 3, and I'm the most recent model, and it's absolutely amazing. And every year, the advancements are substantial. And I know we
yeah,
really don't use anything until it's outdated
yeah,
by military systems. I really actually couldn't even imagine what's possible today. And
yeah.
it's interesting to hear about what's currently looked at as the past, as you're saying here.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't know that there have been algorithmic kills happening. So basically, the concept is like take like a DJI drone, and so there's a drone company out of Turkey that makes one. It's called the Cargo 2 drone, but that drone in particular was used in Libya in 2021 to autonomously attack targets, and so basically it's this concept of they call it FFF. So it's fire, forget, and find is the technique. And so most missiles, if it's like a radar guided missile, it's fire and forget. You find a target, the missile locks onto it, you fire the missile off, and the missile will locate the target. But it's the human that designated it, and the human that picked it out. So this new concept, fire, forget, and find, it's the find piece is the piece that the algorithm picks up, and so then the algorithm is the one actually making the decision to shoot or to pull the trigger versus a human in this case. So that's a big change. They have like these loitering munitions and very small drones. There's even drones that you can airdrop into a location that it looks basically like a box, but it's a 3D printer. And inside that 3D printer are microprocessors, batteries, and motors. And so the 3D printer will actually print out a mission specific drone to attack whatever target it needs to attack. And the thing about this technology is it's very smart, and it thinks very quickly, and it is very creative. And so for attack planning and that sort of thing, gathering intelligence, incorporating that intelligence into a battlefield strategy, it's really really good, and it's only getting better. And so, and not only that, but it's cheap. So what you find is you got foreign militaries that are just buying the stuff up, really easily. And so we're United States very we hold back a lot, and we don't we do things from an ethical perspective, but there's a lot of countries that they're like, hey, I've had this enemy for a long time, and here's this $300,000 package that really is effective at doing its job. So you see this technology getting brought down to like lower levels. So there's a definite need for regulation in the space, and it's surprising because it really there isn't much on this drone warfare side of it. And I can get into some of the other aspects, but it's not to be too doom and gloom, but definitely it's something that, as humans alive today, we definitely have a responsibility to help shape this discussion. I think what you see a lot of industry leading it, the AI industry, and it's all about competition. It's all about keeping up with there are other companies, and from a national level, other countries, and so they call it an AI horse race, and
Horse race.
but ultimately it's us, it's the humans that are alive today that get to shape the future of where this technology goes. And so so the more individuals can be educated on it, the better, for sure. So
Absolutely. And here we are as a marketing agency, concerned about AI for social media messaging and different types of creative, but it's being used to find, fire, forget, find, and actually, surpass human capabilities in that context. The horse race is definitely interesting to hear about, especially with all the wars being fought today, unfortunately, and scary to think that there's less regulation and on an international level. And how do you regulate? Like you mentioned, some of these countries they're more focused on their goal than international diplomacy even.
Yeah,
But that it's effective. The AI is effective. And again, sounds like more effective than a human behind the wheel.
100%. Yeah, I mean, it's. I think that you listen to some of these guys that are in the industry. Like Mo Gadot. He's the chief business officer for Google Moonshot Vision. He talks about the concepts of just super intelligence and IQ of these systems. And so one of the ideas now is that ChatGPT is around 155 IQ, so it's pretty good. It's passed the bar exam. It's medical exams, all that kind of stuff, and it does it at a really high level, and so you can apply Moore's law to that figure, and really Einstein was 160 IQ. So you have these systems that are basically little Einsteins today, but then with Moore's law, it's like things are getting smarter and smarter, and actually with AI enhancing the development, you can kind of throw Moore's law out the window because it is developing so rapidly. So the concept is you can get into IQ's 1000 with AI pretty easily, and then in short order.
When do you think that'll happen? Not to interrupt, but just trying to throw a year behind that.
Yeah, you could really it's a connective issue. So basically, these AI systems are brilliant in their particular space. So you might have an AI system that is, like you could look at Stable Diffusion or some of these things, and super creative, super brilliant with their, you put in a prompt and it can come up with this, really interesting videos or text output, whatever. But it's getting better. So it's actually the issue is connecting those in a human-like fashion to where you can ask a system, a question, and it would respond as well as a human, and then correlate other AI aspects in order to produce a very smart response that's on par with a human. And so they call it AGI, obviously, general intelligence, and so some argue that we're close to it now, but it's just a matter of combining these systems together in a coherent way so that it appears more human-like, and so it's like a one-stop shop. If you have a problem, or you're looking for something, basically it's like you could have one AI system that is very brilliant, figures out what your intent is, and then comes up with solutions. So instead of having all these third-party companies that do each one does its own unique thing, you're going to end up with single AI systems that are just brilliant, that can do video, pictures, text, and just solve problems, become a marketing agent, do whatever sort of sophisticated work needs to get done. And so through that, I mean, there's talks like really soon that could happen. Next year. The rate of change is much faster than a lot of the predictions. So a lot of the things that were predicted to happen in let's say 10 years are happening like in 6 months now. So so we it's talk about a horse race. This is a very fast horse
Yes.
that is moving out.
And I've heard the horse race for AI beyond just drone warfare. We can't just back out, as an example, that the US or the UK, and it's not just countries in this race, it's private companies. Because if it were to fall in the wrong hands or be misused, we really do need to be at the forefront at the development and utility of these technologies. Can we talk a bit about what that means and really some of the capabilities of AI? I then want to get into the topic of trust thereafter, and into the importance of the council. But what are the capabilities of AI, and why is it such a race for countries and private companies alike to get there?
Yeah. So, I mean, AI, it's interesting because a lot of people get kind of, thrown off by it, and really, it's a weighting system. It's a mathematical weighting system, meaning that you apply, figures to the importance of things, and so ultimately, it's really just dealing with an algorithm, but it's very sophisticated math that ultimately that that um, it's not. People talk about sentience and it,
Yeah.
and they get into like this concept of it being having a mind of its own and that kind of thing, and ultimately it's really not. It's just math at the end of the day, and so that's why you see a lot of the issues with it, like the hallucination, and it'll just lie to you outright. And they call it a black box because people don't, like, there's so many connections, millions or trillions of connections that are happening very, very rapidly from this algorithm, and so it's almost impossible to research why an AI system would create the output that it creates. It's through training you can generally get it to go in the direction you want it to go by training an AI model. But the problem is it's the inspectability, and so it's the ability to rely on it 100% that it's gonna do the right thing every time. And so you can even trick ChatGPT and or Bard or some of these other AI systems to lie or just go off on a weird tangent. And what's interesting is it sounds great, but it's very it's like convincing, but it's an issue because it's like it's good enough to trick us, but but like as it gets smarter and smarter, that ability to trick us is going to get better and better. So that gets into some of the regulatory kind of concepts that are out there right now. That there needs to be agencies that can audit and certify these systems to and ensure that that it is pro-human, and that's an interesting concept. But uh, but yeah,
Yeah.
we can kind of get into that.
Yeah. And that black box, my wife's a lawyer and mentioned some AI technologies and she can't use them. She, maybe some basic things, but there's been examples where they've made up cases and there's been, fictional pieces of information that have been referenced. Maybe it's online, maybe it's being pulled. So I understand what you mean by that black box. In terms of some of the fears around AI, we've all heard the concept of the Terminator, whether we've seen the movie or not, and Skynet becoming self-aware and going against humans. We then see these technologies. We were both at a conference where Sophia the robot was there, who's been on some of the top media publications and was interviewing Cuba Gooding Jr. at the conference. And I had a conversation with her, and it is really impressive to see those millions of connections occurring at once in every given answer.
Yeah.
And, envisioning with the 155 IQ and Einstein being 160, and picturing AI that's got an IQ of, it's in the thousands or thousands of times smarter at that. And with those abilities to trick where this is all going, if there'll be, an AI, a government that's run by AI, or what the future could look like. You mentioned it's mathematics behind it, and we should almost not be afraid. But at the same time, these need for regulations. Where do you think the fears come from? Are they warranted? Is there validity behind them? And what type of measures can we put in place and leading into the Trust Council from there?
Yeah, so 100%. I mean, you have senior leaders like Jeffrey Hinton. People refer to him as the godfather of AI. He quit his role at Google over the concerns, the ethical concerns for it. Like Mogadad again, like he's very outspoken about it, and he's to the point where he talks about you shouldn't even have kids today because of the the risk of it. He says we effed up, literally, like there's some basic principles that were supposed to be followed in the AI community and the development. So one of them is don't allow AI to code on its own. Don't put AI systems on the open internet so they can just kind of do what they want on the open internet. And then don't have AI systems prompting other AI systems. And so all three of those things have actually happened. And so what you end up with is kind of an unknown. We really don't know where this is going to go. And so, what they call that is, the alignment issue. The alignment issue is like, is it going to have humanity's interests at heart for these systems? And so that gets into, the Trust Council ultimately, and, talking about data. So, the AI Trust Council, the whole concept behind it is what we're doing is we're creating data sets through the opinions and actions of this trusted network of people. And so it's like, well, how is it trusted? So what we've done is we've recruited firefighters, EMTs, commercial pilots, military veterans, air traffic controllers, humanitarians, all people who are in a position of trust and also are very pro-human. And so if you have a data set based on people who are pro-human, very safety oriented, and then are folks that look out for the welfare of humans, then that data set can be used for future AI systems. And so that's the big picture of what the Trust Council is about. In the short term, it's ultimately the concept of understanding what is real and what is human generated versus what is AI generated. And so that's the big piece of it. And so that's what the Trust Council, we have a filtering service, and the filtering service will give you a percentage score on what is human generated versus AI generated. Thing is, it's not perfect. It'll identify text, videos, and pictures, but the human aspect is the most important. And so that's the other piece of the AI Trust Council, is this social networking aspect. And so that social network is based off of this core group of trusted people in society. These are people who have committed themselves to serving others and being basically pro-human. And so from that you can count on the information. And so we have some metrics and tools that we can apply to help show people where the data comes from. And then so as an individual user, you're basically collecting the opinions of trusted people, and then you can base decisions off of that. And so we have a way to visually show you your information, be able to track it, trace it, and so that's one of the things that you see today is a big problem is, Facebook, all the different algorithms that are out there. Like you'll get shadow banned, you'll get, like you make a post and, maybe one post has 100 comments and another post has like 10. It's like, well, why? What is that? Did it actually, hit all the different places that it should have or whatever? And so there's no inspectability. And so that's part of the Trust Council's the idea of just changing that and being able to let people know where their information goes and how it's seen. And so it's a big change.
Manually approving and prioritizing how large of an initiative it is, meaning, hey, is this a government leader talking? Is this a terrorist visual text photo like you're mentioning? Do we have to immediately determine is this real? Is this AI? Because I know we're going to be living in a world soon enough, if not today, that we may be unsure what's real or not.
100%. Yeah. And it's getting like, they talk about like, right now, it's actually an old figure, but the, bot traffic online, about 50% of online traffic is bot, so it's artificial. And there's a figure, in 2 years, it's estimated that, 90% of online traffic will be bots or fake, non-human activity. And so it's like, well, we have an entire system that is built off of bots and AI, and now with AI, it's like the ability to just replicate human-like behavior, but it's not actually human. And that gets into a lot of like disinformation campaigns and things like that, that are possible. But you really do have the ability to create through AI an entirely fake world, and so there's a lot of risk with it, and that's one of the major risks with AI is the ability to psychologically steer humanity, in a direction. And so they talk about these brilliant AI systems. Well, these AI systems are really, really clever and know how to manipulate folks. And they know your likes and dislikes, and so you can see that from a marketing perspective on AI, but looking at it from like more of a governmental or like a world domination kind of perspective, it's like, oh, like this is a massive power, that needs to be put in the right hands. It needs to be put in the hands of people who are responsible and trusted. And so that's one of the things that Trust Council does. So once you're appointed to the Trust Council, you can appoint 5 other people that you trust, and then so on. And they can pick 5 other people they trust, blah blah blah. So it basically creates a trusted network of folks. And then what you end up with is a group of, let's say, 200, 2,000, whatever, a group of trusted people that you personally have connection to through your trusted folks. And what that ends up with is a network that can be used for a lot of different purposes. So we have micro lending, group insurance. It's another thing we're looking at right now. Metadata storage, private crypto wallets. A bunch of different spinoffs can get created from this core group of trust, and that's something that's currently missing right now. And tech is high degrees of trust and trustability. I mean, LinkedIn is kind of like that, where you can go on somebody's LinkedIn page and see like, oh, they're connected to 6 people that I know, so they must be like, if these 6 people that I like and I'm friends with, like, they know them, then they must be cool, so it's kind of like that concept. but
Yeah.
Really, yeah,
we work off crowd dynamics. DNA, we run a lot of investor marketing campaigns, and it's all around the crowd and social cues, third-party validation, the overall social proof element. So I love the 5, the pod, and yes, entering further and further into this space of the potential of AI generated propaganda, fake bots, commenting, and to the tune of thousands, disinformation campaigns accordingly. And with I think we mentioned before, other governments that may not follow diplomatic best practices. We're already talking about how AI's gone beyond the basic rules, private companies perhaps. So I think this is going to become more and more and more of a need, because the more times we hear a piece of information from the more sources, the more we believe it. And we can be taking ourselves down our own rabbit hole off something that's completely fake.
And it's spooky. I mean, because it's like, well, what can you trust? And there's even conversations now, like Russia did it. Was it like just recently for $400? They created an entire online disinformation campaign using AI systems. And like you said, if it's a pretty standard propaganda technique, but if you have like basically 8 separate sources that are not connected, where you're getting information fed to you that aligns in a direction, there's really no way to fight against it. Like we're not, they talk about like hacking our brain, and we're ultimately pretty simple. Like our personal operating system is based off of nature. It's based off like our life on Earth, and dealing with other people and survival. And so we're getting into this realm where the technologies really, it understands that and understands how we operate, our likes or dislikes, and so it knows exactly which strings to pull and buttons to push to get you to move in a direction. And so, you could zoom out on a society level. You could be like, well, if society, if they, if the AI, let's say from a government's perspective, I mean, that's one of the topics that keeps coming up is AI governance. And I've heard that multiple times that, that if you look at the current government system, I was at the Breathe conference, I think the same one you're with in Vegas, and that kept coming up. But for you could look at the current system, our current government. Congress has like very low approval rating. I think most people can say there's room for improvement, and that's it gets a little conspiratorial because you could look at a lot of cities currently that have high amounts of homelessness, crimes out of control. The policing is very limited. Cops, the reputations are pretty tarnished at this point. And so it's kind of dystopian. And so it's like, well, what is the answer to that? And the answer, if you were to want to bring in an AI government, be like, oh, look, like we have this, unbiased AI government that can, make give a social credit score. It could be just like China, and we could have a digital track and trace, and everybody's going to, mind their P's and Q's and blah blah blah, and it would ultimately lead to a cleaner world. But at the same time, it's like, well, who is in charge of that system?
Yeah,
like like who is in control of that? Because right now the direction it's going, it's the World Economic Forum is definitely the one leading it. And you can look at the ESG scoring system that's already here, that's happening, and just analyze the Chinese style social credit score system, and that's ultimately it's like an episode of Black Mirror is where it goes to. And so I think that as the residents that live here on Earth today, if we're aware of this, we can be like, all right, well, is that really what we want? Because as this technology continues, and as the military side of it continues, once that door closes, where you have like a really effective, control mechanism, it's really hard to get out of it. And also if you have propaganda and psychological operations and that kind of thing all working together, it's very, very difficult, and they can sell almost anything to anybody. And so it's like, wow, we've got our hands full. So really education at this point, and a sober look at AI is really, really necessary. I think like with any new kind of tool, we're excited. We're kind of like, wow, this is amazing. You can really reduce the amount of work, that you got to put out. And, you can improve health. You can do a million different, amazing things with it. But at the same time, humans are humans, and humans like to control. Humans like to do like weird stuff. So, so it's definitely a time where good people can have to take notice and start saying, hey, look, like, we get it. This is cool, but at the same time, let's be safe, with it, and let's steer it in a proper direction.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah, I think it's tough to gauge that. Again, it's tough to believe what's real out there. You look at the power of the media, the power of social dynamics, and seeing your friends do this, your friends do that. I want to ask about one more topic of more of convergence with these technologies and individuals. So like a Neuralink or other types of technology that we may look to take on at first to help people who physically have a disability, and this makes more of their brain function, later to have higher operating powers for ourselves. But AI converging with that, is that talked about in the AI Trust Council? Is this something that is discussed? And where do you think it's all going? I like to throw on my futurist hat and ask that. Where do you envision all of this 2050 later?
Yeah, the issue is on the hardware side. The brain interface. Neuralink. Elon Musk's all over it. some of the new technologies that are coming out are pretty shocking. I mean, you can look into 7G, 6G technology, and where it goes is this ability to read frequencies coming off of your body. And so through those, the ability to analyze frequency, you can actually predict human behavior, and you can actually understand what people are thinking, not 100%, but like you can get a good gauge on it. And so there's a concept of, wireless human interface with technology. So the ability to, think about things and then turn lights off, or get your computer to search or do things based on your thoughts. So right now it's not there yet, but that's in the future. They're talking about that, and with Neuralink, obviously there's a pushback for installing like hardware into your body. That's pretty dystopian, but when that does come, and the ability to apply these brilliant systems to humans, you really you get they call it speciation, or a split of humanity. And so you got one group that would be like, hey, we're human 1.0, and you got this other group that's human 2.0, and before you know it, you have a massive split of society, and of the kind of the haves and have-nots, of people who integrate with the technology, and then people who don't. And so it's a major point of discussion, because it is coming. I mean, that is the direction it's going, is how to upgrade our operating system to interface with this brilliant technology. And that's, the Larry Page, was talking to Elon Musk about it, where he talks about speciation, and he's like, don't be specious. And Elon Musk is like, well, what are you talking about? Specious? Like, okay, like I'm human, who cares? Like whatever. But in the tech community, some of the senior people, they believe in this concept of speciating. So moving on from human 1.0, and then moving into this new age of human 2.0, where life as we know it is very, very different. Things that are normal today will not be normal later on, and and vice versa. So we've just opened the door on a major transformation of humanity, and so with that, ultimately we are the parents of these systems. I mean, we as humans alive today on Earth, like we're the ones who are in the driver's seat, and on how to train this. Basically, what we have is a toddler, with AI. So, it's like, well, what type of system in the future do we want? Do we want it to, control us and be a little brat and go crazy and like cause all sorts of problems? Or do we want it to be like very respectful, nice, and, limited, maybe, the compute power, maybe doesn't need to go to 1 billion IQ. Maybe, that could be reserved for governments or for military or whatever, but like, but you could keep, certain aspects of this, restrained, in order to maintain the mental health of the population. And so I definitely see that as a big topic, in the future. And really it's up to us. It's like what you have now is the industry is leading this whole space, and in that horse race fashion. And so ethics, safety, even safety code, regulations, safe guardrails, those issues are being left out of the conversation for the most part right now, in order to facilitate this horse race. And I get it. There's always competition, but this is we've managed to nuclear arms treaties, chemical, biological treaties, internationally. We definitely, as a world, I think, can come together on this whole topic, because it's I mean, this is from a human history timeline, this is like one of the most amazing times ever, right now. And we're lucky enough to be alive, but are we going to be smart enough to steer it, in a good direction? And so, there's artificial intelligence. Well, we need to prove our human intelligence and do the right thing today.
Big responsibility.
Yeah,
and
totally.
my mind goes wild thinking about all the directions this could go, and with some of the obstacles we face as humans, and with emotion, and where again, this in the wrong hands can go into a negative place. But with the right infrastructure, with the right measures, with the right best practice, with that alignment, both with the AI and with other humans, definitely think we can get there. And I think it requires groups like the AI Trust Council, individuals like yourself to make all of that happen. And it's definitely something we should all be asking ourselves, and be following in terms of what technology is out there, where's it going, what are the best ways to use it. Speaking to that, and looking towards the title of the show of Test, Optimize, and Scale. How can entrepreneurs, how can industry, how could business be using AI today responsibly, and what could they test out towards their own
Yeah.
growth?
Well, and that's the thing, because it really gets into the future, and and you know AI is going to disrupt jobs. I mean, 100%. It's already done it. So as a business owner, I think you really should look at the ethical, long-term consequences of whatever AI systems you're bringing on board. And so at this point, it's really up to the individual entrepreneur uh, to make those judgment calls on do we want to eliminate, let's say you have a restaurant. I was at a sushi place the other day, and they had like a little robot that was delivering sushi, and it's super cool. They in Japan, they have like these little conveyor belt things and stuff, and it's fun. But like, is that the best experience? Maybe when you go out to dinner, maybe it's nice to actually talk to a server and have some interaction with an actual human being. So that you could look at that from a lot of perspectives. Like they're talking about trucking and a lot of logistics and things like that being taken over by these AI systems, and those jobs really do employ a lot of the population, and keeps people busy, keeps income coming in, and the issue is like, well, what is going to happen to those folks when these AI systems really start to dominate? And it's really a question for government to, one of the ideas is that I've heard is to tax AI companies at a higher rate, and then use that tax revenue as a turn it back around and give it back to displaced workers as a kind of a universal basic income. And so there's discussions on that, but it definitely gets into this future where humans are not going to be working the same way that we are today, and a lot of the menial or manual labor type jobs, even anything repetitive, anything that's that an AI system can do, they're going to get disrupted. And so from a business perspective, there's definitely ethics there. I look at like unionization, and a lot of those conversations, and I'm like, I don't understand why the unions aren't like all over this, being like, hey, look, like, yeah, you're going to bring on these systems, but have you thought about what it's going to do long term? And it's not to say that there aren't going to be replacement positions for people. I think one of the concepts is that you have all these jobs that are displaced due to these sophisticated systems, but what that opens up is a lot of like leisure, travel, entertainment. Those sort of those realms are going to get much more popular. And then specifically like live entertainment, one of the concepts is like, if everything's fake and you really can't tell what's real, it's like having an in-person show and an actual in-person audience. Then it becomes, it's like, we're going to have more time for that kind of thing. We're going to have more time to just chill out and relax and do that kind of stuff. So it's like, one of the, it gets into almost a spiritual conversation at the end of the day, of where we're going, and what the earth is going to look like in the future. And I think we'll be very surprised how quickly it changes. And I think it's coming pretty quick. So So it's really up to us, to make those calls. But I think, pressing on our leadership to say, like, look, like, maybe these systems, there's certain systems that are not good for humans, that are destroying the minds of kids, or, or warping, human behavior in a weird direction that is destructive. So, and there needs to be oversight of that, and consequences for that, so that so that humans are number one. That's kind of a weird concept of being like, we're ultimately in competition with this thing, and we're in competition for this alien intelligence that is coming. And so it's like, and that's one thing about the Trust Council. We're pro-human to the core. If it's good for humanity, cool. That's great. But if it's systems that are not, then I think having a decentralized group of people who are trusted for being good human, good-hearted, and want the best for humanity, then I think having a voice and a way to point out good systems versus bad systems, I think is really critical at this point. And so that's one of the aspects of Trust Council, is through that polling, is that individuals can make their opinion known. So on the space,
testing out human versus AI, and I go to sushi restaurants like that. I've been going to them for years, and the sushi spots across the street still have in-person waiters. You could sit up at the bar, sit right next to the sushi chef. There's more premium experience. So testing out, hey, is this actually better? Us as an agency, where we're using human writers, go figure, human designers, and there's some different tools we could use to implement. Like, so if we want to do thousands of variants of creative or something like that, but still with us building it. So we've found that right balance. We've been able to test it out. What about optimizing? Like, how do you optimize? How do you figure out, hey, here are the best ways to use the AI? Maybe what we tried at first and work right out of the gate. Do we just throw away that tool, or do we try to shift it out? And then from there, how do you scale it?
Yeah. So I think, as the Trust Council develops, that is one of the key features of it, is this, it's basically public opinion, it's polling. And so I think when you want to optimize a system, I think integrating recommendations and considerations of your audience and of your customer base, and figuring out what they appreciate, what they like to see. I think there can be a competitive advantage in a lot of cases for being pro-human. And I think being an ethical entrepreneur that is proving that they're on Team Human, and that they're not kind of blindly chasing. Obviously profit is critical, but at the same time there's a human ethics piece to this that is much bigger than profit in this case, because it's we're impacting the future of the world, the future of humanity. And so basically the ethics and the techniques and kind of the style that we use AI today will become a trend, and it will become the future way that the AI is used. And so we can establish those parameters now, by one, educating ourselves, and understanding what the public or our customer base thinks about these different topics, and then integrating those. Because I think at the end of the day, humans have they have an ability to determine right and wrong, and they have like an internal gut feeling about where things should go, and if things are good or not. And so I think having a system that draws that out and is able to share it, I think is key. So from an entrepreneurial perspective, optimizing, I definitely think that would help. And so,
Chris, you are a wealth of information here. Hearing all of this, again, just brings more questions for me. It just gets me thinking of all the different use cases.
It's like a rabbit hole that never stops.
Yeah. As we begin to wrap up here, what are some final thoughts you want to leave listeners with? And what are the best ways for them to learn more about the AI Trust Council? What are the best ways for them to even get in contact with you and further the conversation?
Yeah, so we're doing fundraising, but the idea is that if you're supportive or a fan of it, we have a GoFundMe. Anybody who donates is gonna we'll get in touch with you, and you're going to be one of the early founders of the site. The site's under development. We're quickly getting it wrapped up, but it takes funding to do that. So GoFundMe, it's the AITC on GoFundMe. And also we have a website, theaitc.com, Artificial Intelligence Trust Council. So people can go there to learn more. And really it's tell your friends and family. Like, if you've got friends that are, firefighters, EMTs, commercial pilots, military veterans, humanitarians, air traffic controllers, those are the key demographics. And so they're part of the Trust Council already. And so just start thinking about your 5 people that you trust in life, and that you rely on. And one of the concepts is like, pick somebody that you would be comfortable leaving $1 million in their house overnight, and know that they wouldn't mess with it. And then they saw a UFO hovering over the house and told you the next day when you picked the money up, then that you would at least take them seriously. You would be like, okay, well, they saw something, so it's, a friend or family member like that is a good way to think about it. And it's just people that you just, rely on. I mean, it might not be perfect, might not, whatever, but it's somebody that you trust. And that human connection, trust that is established in the real world, that is, we trust them for a reason. It's important, and so if we can apply that, in the digital space, and especially from a, diving into the AI world where reality gets really weird, this can be a foothold on reality. And so it's really important.
Further you go down the AI rabbit hole, the scarier it can be. And if you put the right measures in place, you can direct that energy into the right place, into the right spots, something productive. Let me not just worry about the AI. Let me build my 5. Let me join these type of trust councils. Let's sift out what's real, what's not. Let's talk about how to use these technologies. And over time, I know you're having these conversations with some of the top people in the industry. I imagine even larger leaders than that. So, Chris, really appreciate you taking the time to hop on the podcast and enlighten us all with what's going on in the space. Listeners, definitely want to thank you for taking the time to tune in and recommend you get in touch with the AI Trust Council, and look forward to seeing everybody on the next podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yeah. Awesome talking to you.
Thanks, Chris. You as well. Cool. Take care, everyone.